Right, today I'm on the hotline to Dubai with Laura King. Thanks very much for agreeing to talk to us, Laura. So you're a presenter on the Dubai Racing Channel. You're also a producer and you're a writer. Anything else? Any
Yeah.
more strings to your bow you want to tell us about?
No, I think that's it. General Dog's Body on Dubai Racing Channel have been for about longer than a decade now. I think 11 years or something full time, which is great fun most of the time. Yeah, lucky to be here, especially at the moment. I think anyone with a job at the moment is just happy to have one.
Yeah. So how did you find yourself in Dubai?
So I have a journalism diploma, which I finished after my degree, and then I joined the BHA's grad scheme, which loads of good people have come through. Brilliant experience, spending a little bit of time at the Racing Post, 2 weeks in Newmarket, absolutely fantastic. And then just before I went on my internship to the Racing Post, I got a call saying I got a job in Dubai, which was with a publication called Race Week, which sadly is now defunct. I can say I've killed off 2 magazines since I've been in Dubai. But Race Week was tremendous. That brought me here, and then I think I had a 6-month contract with them. And once that was up, I didn't want to leave really, so I stayed, and then they renewed my contract for a year or so, and then I moved to another magazine, and a magazine called Equestrio, and then I moved to the TV after that.
Okay, so your background, you told me, was steeped in national hunt racing and point to point. So can you tell us a little bit about your origins?
Yeah, it's all through my dad really. My dad's an avid follower of point to points. That would be his main. If you could give him a race course or a day's racing, he'd pick a point to point. He absolutely loves it. So I was brought up on that, going point to pointing a lot as a kid. There's pictures of me in a little carry thing as a baby, going point to pointing. We're not from a racing family really, apart from my dad's interest in it. And then I was lucky he took me to Cheltenham, to Aintree, places like that as well when I was pretty small. So very much background in national hunt, and now very much the other way, pretty much concentrate on the flat for most of the time now. Obviously being in Dubai, something they're yet to do here is have jump racing as far as I'm aware.
So when did you decide that you wanted to make your career, horse racing or racing?
Oh, when I was really young, I decided I wanted to be a sports journalist, probably when I was about 12, 14. So I sort of aimed my education that way. And it was always going to be racing or football. I think I would have made a lousy football writer. So I'm really glad that I chose racing. It's just given me so much. It's brilliant. And I'll never, ever get bored of it. I love it.
So what turned you from a jumps girl to suddenly loving the flat? What was it that spun you around or turned your head?
I think when I moved to Dubai, I was really young. I was only 21 when I moved here. And there's just that's all there is here. And we're lucky we've got a lot of diversity. We've got 5 tracks. They're all completely different. And work-wise, I was just concentrating on the flats. And I realized it was going to be much better for me professionally in what I was trying to do here if I learned about racing in Japan and America and places like that, rather than if I concentrated on national hunt back home. So I think just immersing myself in flat racing here was, I just sort of lost touch a little bit with national hunt, sadly. But I still, obviously the big days we watch here, we're lucky that we have them on the channel, and I'm still pretty much up to speed with it. It's just the focus of what I do here is very much flat.
Okay, and you said that you sort of in love with international racing. Is that because you get to travel to watch it?
I absolutely love traveling to watch racing. That's what I live for, really. It's just brilliant. I think I love the fact that someone would be sporting enough and make the investment, both in time and financially, to put a horse on a plane and send them to run in another country. I just think it's absolutely tremendous. The fact that a Royal Ascot, despite everything that's going on, I can't get there as a human from Dubai, but they've got horses there from America, I think is absolutely wonderful. And I just love that the level of sort of, yeah, I think sporting is the best word for it, the level of ambition that makes someone say, yeah, I'm not content with winning a race here. I'm going to go and win one in another country. I think it's brilliant. And I think that top trainers who've achieved everything that they have to achieve in their own country, they need to sort of prove that they can do it somewhere else. And the same goes for top horses. I don't think Enable would be the horse that she is had she not gone to France to win 2 arcs. And I think that you do need to prove yourself as a sports person or an equine athlete. You need to prove that you're the best in the world, not just stay at home. So I just absolutely love international racing. And the other thing I love is learning about the way they do things in different countries. Like I went to Mauritius last year on holiday, and we went to the race course, and it was absolutely amazing just to see the way they do things. They've got this ridiculous grandstand, which is so skinny. It can't be more than about 20 meters wide, yet it's absolutely packed. It's the most enthusiastic crowd I've ever come across anywhere. And it just sort of works the way they do things, even though they don't irrigate. They're running on this really firm ground. It's just things like that intrigue me. They've got different rules to the jockeys that you'd see anywhere else. And then you could go somewhere not too far away from that, like South Africa, and it would all be different again. I love that. And you could pretty much carry on traveling forever, I think, and still learn things about racing and how they do it in different countries. I mean, I haven't even touched the surface of the Middle East and where they race over here, places like Kuwait and Iraq, places like that race, and I haven't even been to investigate that. So you could carry on forever with it, and I can't imagine ever getting bored of that.
So your enthusiasm comes across palpably, sort of. So where have you? What's the most exotic place you've been racing?
Ooh, I actually did list out all the tracks I've been to recently, which is a little bit of a egotistical thing to do. The most exotic place. I've got my eye on St. Lucia. That looks great. I haven't managed to make it there yet. Probably was Mauritius, actually. Just in terms of the passion of the crowd there was just something I've never, ever seen anywhere. All to do with betting, of course. Beyond that, I love America. My favourite track is Santa Anita. I think it looks as though the worst is behind them in terms of what they went through last year. Just think that it's got that mix of an amazing spectacle, amazing scenery, and some wonderful history. I absolutely love it. And I've been lucky enough to go to Saratoga for the last 4 summers. I think I went there for a day. Then the next year I went for 2 days, and then a week, and then 2 weeks. I absolutely love Saratoga. That's, again, got the history, and it's got the top class racing. So they would be my favourite tracks. I'm not sure if that answers the exotic question quite. I've also been to some weird places. Like last year I went racing in Bucharest, which was a real experience, and that was, I think, about half a dozen harness races and an Arabian race. That was good fun.
So did you go there professionally, or do you just realise that there's these things going on and go there as a holiday or something?
A little bit of both. My husband's very long suffering, so as soon as we went to Mauritius, I was like, oh, they're racing. Well, it'd be really silly to come here and not film a feature for the channel. So we did, and he's very good at being a cameraman and tolerating having a day off from his holiday to film. And then the trip to Bucharest was with the Sheikh Mansour Festival that sponsors Arabian racing all over the world. So they love going to countries that aren't really recognised on the racing circuit, perhaps, and putting on Arabian race and showcasing that sport there. So I've gone to a few sort of weird and wonderful places with them, which has been amazing.
And what's on the top of the list that you haven't been to?
Where haven't I been to that I really want to go to? Definitely that one in St. Lucia. That appeals a lot. I'd love to go to, it sounds strange, there's a new track in America called Colonial Downs. They've got some really good people there managing it, and it just sounds really good fun. They've got a little meeting, short meeting, and it just sounds really good. So that's one I'm kind of keen to tick off in the next few years. I'm trying to think countries-wise that I haven't been to that I'd really love to go. It'd be interesting to see racing in somewhere like Russia, particularly with Arabians. There's a bit going on there with them, and I think we might just see and hear from them a lot more in the thoroughbred world over the next few years. There's a lot of now prominent Russian owners, especially here in Dubai, and we have had the odd horse come over from Russia and do reasonably well. So that could just be a bit of a rising force. It'd be interesting to see what level they're at there now and how it is going to evolve. I love seeing places that are really sort of starting relatively small, and then they're going to become a big force, which I think we've seen most notably recently with South Korea. I mean, I didn't even know they raced there 6 years ago, and now I've been, I think I've been 4 times, 5 times to their big international meeting, and their breeding is really coming along. Their local breds are able to hold their own. They're increasingly a big force. They had a horse run really well at the Breeders' Cup. They've got loads of people go racing. They have a huge betting turnover. They're going to be a massive emerging nation. So it's kind of nice to visit places that are just on the cusp of breaking through, if you like.
I suppose you think that racing is going to become, increasingly international the way, the ease of transport and stuff these days. So what would be?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it's still it still must be difficult though, mustn't it? I haven't ever travelled with a horse. I've done features on horses travelling, but the logistics of it, I think, must still be very difficult. But we're just lucky to have so many people willing to do it.
Yeah, I interviewed Steve Smith-Eccles a while back, the ex-national hunt jockey, and that's what he does now, travels with horses
Oh,
in the
amazing.
plains and things. Yeah, I think it's quite a hairy job, quite hard,
Yeah,
quite difficult.
I think it'd be quite rewarding if you had sole charge of a horse, or perhaps you and someone else, and you delivered that horse to America from Newmarket and won at the Breeders' Cup or something. That would be absolutely tremendous if you were the flying groom. I can think of worse jobs.
Yeah. So you've got a penchant for US racing. How big a spectator sport is it? I mean, it doesn't appear in the daily papers and like it does over in the UK, does it? It's not that. How is the sort of status of racing in America
It's
as
not
a
in great
public?
shape. It's really not in great shape. Obviously, I mentioned earlier the issues with Santa Anita last year. Racing in California could feasibly get banned. It's got that bad. There's a powerful lobby against it. And really, in terms of spectators, it's apart from the big days, it's not particularly well attended. I went to the Kentucky Derby last year, which was an absolutely amazing experience. The whole of Louisville that week it's just gripped by Derby fever, and it's just brilliant. I can't really describe how amazing that was as a race day. But then if you went to Churchill Downs the rest of the meet, there'd be hardly anyone there, which is really sad to see, especially at these big historic tracks. So it's not in great shape. There's a lot that needs doing. It's, we moan about racing in England. Maybe there's different factions. The horsemen's group wants something and other people need something else, and the punters need something. But America, you've got a different rule from state to state. It really does need a national governing body, which, although everybody agrees that it needs one, it doesn't seem like it's actually going to happen. So, I wish it was in slightly better health than it is, but I absolutely love it. And I think the reason I love it is just because there's so many great stories over there. There's just so many sort of human interest stories that the press over there are very good at bringing out.
No, you mentioned, I was going to ask you because US racing is sort of broadcast over here on the racing channels and things, and people bet on it. How does racing differ from state to state? In what way?
Well, I mean, you've got completely different rules with things like, for instance, nasal strips. I think California Chrome's year, you couldn't race in them in New York, but you could in Kentucky and things like that. And there's different rules on medication. I think even Bob Baffert's recently fallen foul of that. There's different rules on interference, things like that. And stewarding rules are different. It's really, really difficult, I think, if you are trying to ship horses in between states to exactly know where you are. But of course, it's a trainer's job to know all that. But as I understand it, without ever having been based there, it is very much different state to state, just in terms of the sort of basic rules, which doesn't really encourage you perhaps to ship your horses across the country.